Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Jeremy. Jeremy, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Jeremy, well, thanks again for being on the podcast. Before we dive into the subject, which I find super interesting, maybe share a little bit about your background, how you got into marketing and kind of what you're passionate about in the space.
I got into marketing in sort of a circuitous fashion. Pretty much my whole life I wanted to be a sports writer, sports journalist. Went to graduate school for journalism, got a job right out of grad school at Sports Illustrated, which was kind of my dream job. Was there for about 4.5 years and, kind of experienced on the unfortunate decline of print media while I was there. And so, experienced everything you can imagine, budget shrinking, staff shrinking, eventually, myself being involved in a layoff. I just got married and sort of kind of had to think, right, like, where do I want to keep going with the journalism route? Do I want to try something different? And, outside of journalism, I didn't really know what other sort of industries I would want to go to. I didn't spend many classes in math. I was always very focused on writing. I already had a graduate degree, so I didn't really want to go back to school. It was either stay in journalism or go in either like kind of the marketing PR route. And I had some, family members who had actually made similar transitions, from journalism, and they were like, you should have done that years ago. So that's what I kind of decided to do. And kind of not really caring whether it was, marketing or PR, just kind of wanted to get situated somewhere and then, figure it out. And then, I got a job at a cybersecurity startup called Avanon. It was that did email security or does email security as sort of the content manager. And my first day was the first day of the New York City COVID shutdown. So I kind of snuck in, and it's been a pretty great ride ever since.
That's really fascinating. So Jeremy's really passionate about repurposing content, and you have some really cool, almost formulaic abilities to really do this and turn it into lead generation and things like that. But really, what got you started with repurposing content? Why did you start building kind of a repurposing machine?
Our startup Avanon got acquired by a company called Checkpoint. It's a large cybersecurity public company in September of 2021. And so as we sort of made the transition into the larger company, we became, pretty much overnight a global company, which was really exciting, but presented a challenge for what still is a small marketing team. So for us, it was how can we get the most out of what we have, and how can we sort of be in multiple places at once? One of the real benefits of starting in COVID is that I started in COVID and didn't have anywhere to go. So I was able to sort of build a content library that was pretty extensive. It seemed sort of silly to let some of that stuff kind of waste away. Most of it is still relevant to our audience, and there's a lot of it. And so for me, it was sort of, how can I make all of our lives easier by repurposing it? And also, how can I make more of a global impact? We went from a pretty much North America focused company to a global company and everything that goes along with that. So for us, the idea of sort of repurposing was a bit of survival. We kind of took two tracks. One, we didn't stop. I think it's probably important to mention. We didn't stop creating original content. Quite the opposite. We still create quite a bit. But what the repurposing program allows us to do is to focus our energy a little bit more on the new breaking news stuff. And we can put more of our energy and attention into making really good. So what we do is, we take a topic. It's a topic that maybe we've written about a number of times, or 2 or 3 times. A theme that's important. Maybe it's something that only our product can do, or it's an important trend in the marketplace. Create a webinar based off that. And we do a number of sort of those, call them easy lifts webinars. We have the content. We pretty much very easily create a slide deck around it, a landing page. We bring in someone a little bit more technical from our staff, and we have a bunch of sort of favorite guests that we kind of go to, and people who like to do that sort of thing. And that's a webinar. We do a 30-minute webinar, and we have our demand gen team does an amazing job of doing all the invites and all that sort of stuff. And that's sort of rinse and repeat. We can do that. Global teams across the country can do it. Across the world can do it, in their language, with any sort of regional things they might want to add or take out. And then that allows us to sort of pivot really quickly on any sort of the breaking news topics. So we're able to sort of create a little bit of a content wheel. It's never stopping. The biggest example of this is the big thing in the email security world has been QR code phishing over the last 2 to 3 months, with the unfortunate name of Quishing, which we did not give. That is not a new thing, but it kind of randomly and suddenly took off September-ish, August, September, and became the only thing that customers and prospects were asking about. Like, can you protect against this? Because it's everywhere. And we can, and we could. So we were able to but we wanted to promote that we could do that. It was something that we've done for 4 years. We were the first to market with it. So it was a unique advantage. It was kind of like, this is something where we can not only say that we protect against these sort of things, but talk a little bit about, the history of innovation and, why we came up with this feature, even though it wasn't a big deal and all those sorts of things. So we were able to put together a webinar that actually had our team on it, had another team in the company that focuses on mobile phones, because that's obviously a big part of QR codes, while also keeping the kind of content hamster wheel going at the same time. It allows us to focus on the breaking news stuff and pivot really quickly. And there's always, I'm sure this is the same for every industry, there's always sort of a new thing that breaks or that happens and that people are talking about, a new topic. So we're able to go to that without losing steam on this sort of standard messaging and things that are important to us. So we're able to get both with a small team without having to scramble and, make our lives miserable. So having that repository makes it easy to just have, we're going to have a webinar this week, and a webinar next week. We know what it's about. It's not going to ruin our lives and trying to create. And that way we're open for our energy and focus when new stuff comes along, or even just a new idea based on something else, to kind of go for it and try to make it as big as we possibly can. So it's sort of a 2-track philosophy, and it really only kicked off this year. But its webinars have been by far our biggest lead drivers, and it's not even close. So it's working, and I think we're going to see if we can push it forward in 2024.
That's fascinating. I love that. A couple of things that you mentioned that I think are really cool and worth double clicking on. Such a technical term, double clicking. But number one, with your webinar strategy, obviously you talked about, we want to prove that we can do this QR code stuff and keep people secure. The fact that you're showing your knowledge about the subject is a far greater sales pitch than saying, hey, we can protect you against QR code stuff. Instead of saying that, you're saying, hey, here's everything you need to know. Here's how it originates. Here are the groups getting targeted. Here's where most people are susceptible and where more people need to be security, as a user, as a business. Here's everything you need. And inherently, if you give that content, someone's saying, okay, I know they know what they're talking about. They must have a solution. It's a far better pitch than just saying, hey, yeah, we take care of it. It's actually the proof in the pudding, basically, before you ever have to put forth a pitch. I think that's really, really smart.
Yeah. And, all of our content is a sales pitch, right? That's what we're trying to get to at the end of the day. We don't do a lot of content that's just purely helpful. You see a lot of that now where it's, here's a, guide to X, right? And there's no, at least not explicitly stated, product pitch. Our motto is default aggressive. So there's always a sales pitch in what we're doing, because that's at the end of the day what we're going for. And we do include them in the webinars. I mean, we invite people to take a demo. We show off a little bit, but we're also trying to just be educational and make you maybe think about, how is your organization doing with this threat? We're not in your face, we're sort of near or around it instead, but we're showing off product knowledge and a real, history, particularly with this one, a history of working with it and innovating with it. And then we're like, all right, this is what we have to say. If you want to check it out for yourselves, test our claims, by all means do that. As we always say, don't take our word for it, try it out for yourself. But hopefully they've gotten enough, use out of the conversation and trust from, the people who are talking, that they're more willing to, come to a demo with an open mind after having, learned about a new topic or a topic that they're very familiar with a new angle.
I think that's genius. I think it's great. And obviously every market's going to be different, but for your market in particular, it seems like there's a high level and a high need of, do they know what they're talking about? Yes, they do. Okay, now we can further the conversation. And I think that kind of helps out. The other thing I really love is how you have created this repurposing machine, but you've done it in such a way where you've allowed opportunities to take advantage of things that are current and pressing in front of mind. I've been in so many circumstances and businesses where there was so much going on that there was never an opportunity or freedom to take advantage of breaking news jacking, whatever you want to call it, just current opportunities, because we never quite had the machine as figured out, that we never gave ourselves that flexibility and freedom. So I love that, repurposing is not only getting more mileage, it's really just saying, cool, we don't have to worry about that as much. Now we can put genuine effort into new stuff. And for your industry, it seems like it makes sense. Something new is coming out all the time. And I love how you've built that into the system. Is there like a split in time? How do you manage the two worlds appropriately? Just because I've never seen it done well, if I'm completely honest. How do you do that?
I don't know that we have a split. I mean, maybe we should. I think we try to set out a webinar calendar of this is what we're going to do this month. We very rarely stick to that original plan. There's always stuff being added, very rarely taken away, always added. And so, I think the key for us is, getting that first plan down really well. All right. So these are the 5 things this month that we are going to try to drive interest in, around the world. Again, it's the same topic that we use around the world, hoping that topic, we're lucky in that in cybersecurity and email security, there's always sort of a few through lines. You can always talk about phishing. You can always talk about AI nowadays. There's no shortage of sort of similar topics that are always on people's mind. And then we just get inundated now with requests for webinars. We make a very quick assessment, like this QR code thing. It's like, yep, got to do that. Over the summer, it was a Microsoft Teams based attack. So we got to do that. And so we got to like pivot really quickly. So I think what's helpful is that we know we have our set amount of webinars. At least, if nothing else in the world changes, we're going to do this. We have a little bit of a formula for them. We know who the speakers are going to be for the most part, and that's sort of set. Somebody asks us to do a webinar, or we come up with an idea, or a new thing happens, and that just gets added on top of it. But we have sort of the basics of a program that we know we're going to stick with. And, I don't want to make it sound like we're not paying attention to the core, quote unquote, program. It involves a lot of attention and care, but it's a repeatable process. We know, our demand generation manager, John Ryan, is a bit of a wizard, and he can, within like an hour, create a webinar campaign and be done. We know how to do it. He knows how to do it. We know how to promote it. It's all very sort of replicable, right? You kind of copy the landing page, you add a little bit of text change, and you're good to go. That's a machine that has been built up that gives us the ability to focus on new and interesting things. Once we kind of finalize the topic and know what we're going to do and pick a date, then we just add it to that same machine. So as a content person, I'm very lucky to have a demand gen team that I can just throw stuff to, and they know how to, if you ask me to do it and promote it, we'd be in trouble. But I can just toss it to him. He knows what to do. He spits it out, and away we go. I think the other thing too about that is that we're very good at promoting the webinar without having the content finished. I think that's really important. QR code. All right, we know it's going to be about QR codes. I know what the basics are going to be. I don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to say. I have a general idea just because I know the topic. I know what's kind of being circulated in the news about it, but I'm not waiting until I have a finished slide deck. I'm not waiting until I've done a practice run. Let's get it out. Try to give ourselves 3 weeks advance notice to promote it. And so that's 3 weeks for me to make sure myself and the guests are on the same page. Any presentations I want to add, any materials they want to create, they have the time to do it. We do a practice run a day or two before, which is really not a practice run. It's more just saying, all right, I'm going to start here, and then you're going to go there, and then we go. So I think that's also key. It's like we're not waiting until it's finished to promote it. We're just constantly promoting. I know that I'll finish what I have to finish beforehand. And I know my team will do that, and we don't lose momentum waiting for deck. And we're not waiting for decks to get approved, and we're just going. And I think that's a huge asset, because otherwise you're just going to be stuck waiting for an approval that, may never come. And then the moment's passed.
Yeah, I think it's genius. That's great. Well, Jeremy, as promised, this goes by really, really quick. Thank you for sharing your insights. Super valuable information. I can easily see a few other podcasts that we should do at some point in time. Your approach to international repurposing is really, really cool as well. I'd love to dive into that sometime. But if anyone wants to continue the conversation with you, how can they connect with you online?
Yeah, easiest place, LinkedIn, Jeremy Fuchs. It's my wedding photo. No beard, as you see here. But yeah, Jeremy Fuchs. It'll actually say Avidon on my LinkedIn. I haven't changed it to the company that acquired us, which I probably should. But yeah, feel free to reach out anytime.
Perfect. Love it. Well, Jeremy, thanks for the time today, and have a good one.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.